I stayed silent while my own family destroyed my life, because I needed them to think I was weak. The morning that letter arrived at my parents' house, the one that made my father's hands shake and my mother's voice crack, I wasn't there to see it. I was in Baltimore, 3 hours away, sitting in my new apartment with a cup of coffee and absolutely zero guilt. They called 17 times that day. I didn't answer once. But let me back up because you need to understand how we got here. You need to see what they did. What they've always done. My name is Madison Blake, and I grew up in a house where only one person's feelings mattered, my younger sister's. Not mine. Never mine. Every family has roles, right? The funny one. The responsible one. The wild one. In my family, there were only two roles that mattered, the star and the shadow. Guess which one I was? My sister controlled everything. Her mood decided whether we had a peaceful dinner or a screaming match. Her needs determined every family plan, every vacation, every holiday. If she was upset, the world stopped spinning until someone fixed it. And that someone was usually expected to be me. I learned early to make myself smaller, quieter, less complicated. Because when I needed something, help with homework, a ride to a school event, even just someone to listen, there was always a reason why not right now. Always something more urgent involving her. My 10th birthday party got canceled because she didn't want to share attention. My high school award ceremony? My parents left halfway through because she called crying about a friend drama. The pattern was so consistent, I stopped expecting anything different. I adjusted. I worked harder, got better grades, found part-time jobs at 15 to buy my own things, built a future for myself one small piece at a time, knowing nobody was going to hand me anything. When I got into the University of Maryland, it felt like a door opening, a way out, a chance to exist somewhere my worth wasn't measured against someone else's emotions. My parents' reaction? My father glanced up from his phone and said, "That's nice, sweetheart." My mother hugged me for exactly 4 seconds before my sister walked in complaining about her day, and just like that, the conversation shifted. But I didn't care. I was leaving. What I didn't know yet, what I wouldn't discover until years later, was that while I was packing for college, decisions were being made about money. About a fund that was supposed to belong to both of us. About my future being quietly redistributed to accommodate hers. I wish I had asked more questions before leaving. I wish I had demanded to see paperwork, bank statements, anything. But I was 18 and desperate to escape, and I trusted that whatever financial arrangements existed would be fair. That trust would cost me everything. At the time, though, all I felt was relief. 4 years at University of Maryland meant 4 years of being seen for what I accomplished, not overshadowed by what she needed. For years where my achievements would be mine. I worked 20 hours a week while taking full course loads. I stayed up until 3 in the morning writing papers after closing shifts at the campus bookstore. I lived on ramen and coffee and pure determination. And through it all, I held on to one single belief, that when I graduated, when I walked across that stage with my degree, my family would finally see me. Really see me. Graduation day was supposed to be proof that I mattered. Instead, it became the day I learned exactly how little I did. 4 years is a long time to build hope. I spent every one of those years convincing myself that graduation would be different. That this achievement was too big to ignore. Too public to dismiss. The University of Maryland wasn't just a school, it was proof I could survive on my own. Thrive, even. My parents visited campus exactly twice in 4 years. Once during move-in freshman year, where they stayed for 40 minutes before my sister called saying she felt abandoned. The second time was junior year, when they happened to be driving through Maryland for something else. Both visits, my mother spent most of the time on the phone with my sister. But I told myself it was fine. They were busy. My sister needed more support. I was the independent one, the one who didn't require constant attention. Every semester I made Dean's List. I'd call home, excited to share. The conversations lasted maybe 3 minutes before shifting to updates about my sister's latest interest, pottery classes, a potential career in social media, her thoughts on moving somewhere more her vibe. I'd hang up and tell myself they were proud, just not good at showing it. Senior year, everything accelerated. Applications for graduate programs. Job interviews. Building a life beyond college. I was doing it all alone, but I was doing it. 3 months before graduation, I called my parents specifically to give them the date. May 14th. Morning ceremony. I needed to know they'd be there. Of course we'll be there, my mother said. We wouldn't miss it. I actually cried after that call. Relief, maybe. or just exhaustion from carrying the weight of my own hope for so long. I planned everything. Reserved 4 seats in the third row, center section, close enough to see faces, far enough back they wouldn't feel pressured by the crowd. I made little name cards, mom, dad, and 2 extras in case they brought my sister and her friend. I researched restaurants for after. Found a place that served my father's favorite steak and had vegetarian options for my mother. Made a reservation for 6 people, just in case. I bought a new dress for the dinner I'd planned. Navy blue, professional, but not too formal. The kind of dress that said, I'm an adult now, I made it. The week before graduation, I confirmed with my mother 3 separate times. She assured me they were coming. My father even texted, proud of you, kiddo. See you Saturday. I screenshot that text. Saved it. Read it probably 50 times. The night before the ceremony, I couldn't sleep. Not from anxiety, from excitement. Tomorrow I'd walk across that stage, and my family would be there watching. 4 years of work. Validated in a single moment. I laid out my cap and gown. Set 4 alarms. Checked my phone obsessively to make sure I hadn't missed any messages about traffic or delays. Everything was perfect. At 6 in the morning, I got ready. At 7, I drove to campus. At 8:30, I texted my parents. Heading to the stadium now. Your seats are saved, 3rd row center. Can't wait to see you. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. The response that came back wasn't what I expected. But I wouldn't see it until it was too late to matter. The stadium was chaos in the best way. Families everywhere, holding balloons and flowers and signs with names on them. Someone's grandmother crying happy tears 3 rows behind me. A dad trying to figure out his camera while his wife laughed and fixed his collar. The marching band played fight songs. The sun was perfect, not too hot, just bright enough to feel significant. The kind of day you'd remember forever. I kept checking my phone. Kept scanning the entrance for familiar faces. My section started lining up. We were arranged alphabetically, so I was near the front. Blake, Madison. I'd be one of the first to walk. I texted my mother. Where are you guys? Ceremony starts in 20 minutes. No response. 15 minutes. The dean was at the podium doing sound checks. People were finding their seats. The reserved section I'd carefully marked was still empty. I called my father. Straight to voicemail. 10 minutes. My hands started sweating. Maybe there was traffic. Maybe they parked far away. Maybe they were rushing through the crowd right now, apologizing to people as they squeezed past to get to their seats. I texted again. Getting worried. You close? The girl next to me, Rachel from my economics class, asked if I was okay. I nodded, forced a smile. Just making sure my family knows where to sit. Her parents were already there, front row, waving at her like she'd just won an Olympic medal. 5 minutes. The announcer asked everyone to silence their phones. The crowd settled into that anticipatory hush, the kind that comes right before something important begins. My phone buzzed. Finally. I grabbed it so fast I almost dropped it. Saw my mother's name on the screen. Opened the message. And felt the ground shift underneath me. We're not coming. Your sister is upset again. She needs us. Please understand. I read it twice. 3 times. Waited for the follow-up text that would explain this was a joke, a mistake, something. Nothing came. No apology. No, we're so sorry. No, we'll make it up to you. Just that one message, like it explained everything. Like it justified anything. My sister is upset again. Of course she was. She'd been upset about me graduating for months. Upset I was getting attention. Upset people kept asking about my plans. Upset that, for once, a family event would center around me instead of her. And they chose her. Again. The announcer called my row to stand. We started moving toward the stage entrance. I was still holding my phone staring at those words. Please understand. I understood perfectly. I understood that I could spend 4 years working myself to exhaustion, and it still wouldn't matter as much as my sister's mood on a random Saturday morning. I understood that my biggest achievement was less important than whatever tantrum she'd thrown at breakfast. I understood that I would always come second. The girl behind me touched my shoulder. You okay? We're moving. I put my phone in my pocket, straightened my gown, took a breath. Then I walked. My name was called. Madison Elizabeth Blake. I climbed the stairs to the stage, crossed to the dean, shook his hand, accepted my diploma. The crowd cheered for everyone generally, not for me specifically. Families screamed their graduate's name. I heard that's my baby and we love you, Marcus, and camera shutters clicking everywhere. I smiled for the official photographer, posed with my diploma, walked off the opposite side of the stage. And that was it. For years. Thousands of hours of studying. Hundreds of shifts at minimum wage jobs. Countless nights wondering if I'd make it. And I walked that stage completely alone. Afterward, the courtyard became a celebration. Graduates hugging their parents, taking photos, crying happy tears. Someone proposed to their girlfriend. A set of twins graduated together, and their whole extended family descended on them with flowers and balloons. I stood at the edge of the fountain and watched. A professor I'd had sophomore year saw me. "Madison, congratulations. Where's your family?" "They got delayed," I said. The lie came easily. "Traffic." She looked concerned. "Do you need anything? Want me to take your photo?" "No, thank you. They'll be here soon." Another lie. She left. I sat on the fountain's edge, pulled out my phone, stared at my mother's message again. Something inside me didn't break. It didn't shatter or explode or collapse. It just went quiet, cold, clear. For the first time in my life, I stopped trying to understand them. Stopped making excuses. Stopped hoping the next time would be different. I took one photo. Just one. The empty seats where my family should have been sitting. Third row, center section. For chairs with little name cards I'd made, now surrounded by strangers who'd moved into the spots when they saw them unclaimed. I saved that photo because something told me I'd need it later. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for most families to leave. Long enough for the maintenance crew to start breaking down chairs. Long enough for the celebration sounds to fade into echoes. The fountain kept running behind me. Water hitting water, constant and indifferent. My phone buzzed. A text from my roommate. "Congrats, grad? Where are you?" "We're getting brunch." I didn't respond. Another buzz. My mother. "Hope the ceremony was nice. Your sister is feeling better now. We can video chat later if you want to show us your diploma." Video chat later. After they missed the entire event. After I walked alone. After 4 years of promises led to nothing. They wanted a video chat later like that somehow counted. Like seeing a piece of paper through a phone screen was the same as being there. I turned my phone face down on the stone ledge. A group of graduates passed by, still in their gowns, heading toward the parking lot. One of them called out, "You coming to Kelly's party?" I shook my head. "I'm good. Have fun." They disappeared around the corner, laughing about something. Normal people having a normal day, celebrating with people who actually showed up for them. The thing about betrayal is that everyone expects you to react immediately. To cry or yell or demand explanations. To make a scene that matches the size of the hurt. But I didn't feel like crying. I felt like I was watching everything from behind glass. Present but separate. There but not really. A campus security guard walked by, noticed me. "You alright, miss? We're closing the area soon." "I'm fine. Just taking it all in." He nodded, kept walking. I pulled my phone back out. Opened my photos. Looked at that image of the empty seats. Then, I did something I'd never done before. I didn't text my parents back. Didn't call to ask why. Didn't send a message saying I understood or it was okay, or maybe next time. I just stopped. Stopped explaining my feelings. Stopped managing their guilt. Stopped making their choices easier by pretending they didn't hurt. For 22 years, I'd been the easy daughter. The one who adjusted. The one who didn't complain when plans changed or promises broke. The one who smiled and said, "It's fine," even when it absolutely wasn't. And where did that get me? Sitting alone at my own graduation, watching strangers celebrate moments I'd never have. I stood up, folded my gown over my arm, started walking toward the parking lot. My phone buzzed again. My father this time. "Your mother said you haven't responded. Everything okay?" "Everything okay." I almost laughed. Instead, I typed, "Ceremony was great. Thanks for asking." Polite. Neutral. Giving nothing. 3 dots appeared immediately. My father was typing. Then they stopped. Started again. Stopped. He didn't know what to say when I wasn't making it easy for him. I got to my car. Threw my gown in the back seat. Sat in the driver's seat with my hands on the steering wheel. For the first time since reading my mother's text, I felt something besides that cold clarity. Not sadness. Not even anger exactly. Resolve. They'd shown me who I was to them. Not through words but through choices. Through priorities. through one text message that said everything I'd spent years trying not to believe. I wasn't going to fight them, wasn't going to argue, or demand they see what they'd done wrong. I was just going to remember. Remember exactly how little I mattered when it came down to it. Remember that no amount of achievement or success would ever change the family hierarchy. Remember that I would always be expected to understand, to adjust, to accept less. I started the car. The drive back to New Jersey took 3 hours. 3 hours of highway and silence, and the slow crystallization of something I couldn't name yet but felt growing with every mile. By the time I pulled into my parents' driveway, I knew one thing for certain. Something had shifted, and there was no going back to who I was before that empty stadium. The house looked exactly the same. Same beige siding. Same red front door. Same flower pots my mother never remembered to water. Nothing had changed in 4 years, which somehow made everything feel worse. I sat in the car for a minute, diploma on the passenger seat, cap and gown still in the back. Evidence of a day that happened without witnesses. Through the living room window, I could see the TV flickering. Someone was home. I grabbed my bag, left everything else, and walked inside. The first thing I heard was laughter. Reality TV laughter, the kind that's amplified and fake. The first thing I saw was my sister sprawled across the entire couch, bowl of popcorn on her stomach, phone in one hand. She glanced up when I walked in. "Oh, you're back. Not congratulations. Not sorry we missed it. Just oh, you're back," like I'd been at the grocery store instead of my college graduation. "Where's Mom and Dad?" "Dad's in the garage. Mom went to get takeout for dinner." She turned back to her phone. "We're getting that Greek place I like." Of course they were. I dropped my bag by the stairs. "How are you feeling?" She looked confused. "What?" "This morning. Mom said you were upset." "Oh." She shrugged. "I'm fine now. I just had a panic attack about some stuff. You know how it is." I didn't respond. Didn't ask what stuff meant or why it required both parents to stay home. Didn't point out that I'd just walked across a stage 3 hours away while she ate popcorn and recovered from stuff. I just stood there, watching her scroll through her phone, completely unbothered. My father came in from the garage, wiping grease off his hands. He saw me and smiled. "Hey, kiddo. How'd it go?" "It went. Your mother said the seats were probably pretty far back anyway. Those stadiums are huge, right? Probably couldn't have seen much." "Third row center. They would have seen everything." "Probably," I said. "Did you record it?" "We wanted to see you walk." They wanted to see me walk. Past tense. After it was already over. After the moment had passed. "No," I said. "I didn't record it." "Oh, that's too bad." He headed toward the kitchen. "Well, I'm sure someone got video. Maybe the school posts them online." He disappeared around the corner. I stood in the entryway of my childhood home and felt like a stranger. My mother came back 20 minutes later with bags of food. She hugged me quickly, kissed my cheek. "Congratulations, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." The words were right. The timing was 4 hours too late. We ate dinner at the table. My sister complained about the rice. My father talked about a project at work. My mother asked if I'd figured out my living situation yet. Nobody asked about the ceremony, what it felt like to walk, who sat near me, what the dean said in his speech. Nobody mentioned why they weren't there. After dinner, I went upstairs to my room. Needed to lie down, process everything, maybe finally let myself feel something besides that strange numbness. I opened the door. The room was different. My bed was gone. My desk was gone. The posters I'd left on the walls, the bookshelf I'd built in high school, the curtains I'd picked out, all gone. In their place, yoga mats, meditation cushions, a salt lamp, and about 15 potted plants. A banner on the wall read, "Wellness Space." My sister's wellness space. In my room, I stood in the doorway, staring. My mother appeared behind me. "Oh, honey, we converted it last year. Your sister needed somewhere quiet for her mental health work, and you weren't using it anymore, so." "Where am I supposed to sleep?" "The pull-out couch in the basement works great. We put fresh sheets on it this morning." This morning, when they were getting ready to not come to my graduation. "We were going to tell you," she added. "But you know how things get busy." My sister walked past, glanced into the room. "Do you like what I did with it? The plants really help my energy." She was asking me if I liked what she did with my childhood bedroom. I looked at my mother, at my sister, at the room that used to be mine, now filled with things that belonged to someone whose feelings always mattered more. "It's great," I said. My voice sounded far away, even to me. My mother smiled, relieved. I'm so glad you understand. You've always been so flexible. Flexible. She meant easy to erase. I went downstairs to the basement, found the pull-out couch with its fresh sheets, sat on the edge, and stared at the concrete walls. That's when I noticed my laptop bag, the one I'd brought home for the summer, still packed from the dorm. I pulled it out, opened it, logged in, and started looking through my email. Not for anything specific, just looking. That's when I found the first one. A forwarded message from the financial aid office, sent to my parents, but CC'd to an email address I rarely checked. Subject line: College Fund Distribution Inquiry. I clicked it, started reading, and felt that cold clarity from earlier sharpen into something else entirely. The email was from 2 years ago. I didn't remember seeing it. Must have gotten buried under spam, forgotten in an inbox I only checked for class assignments. But now, sitting in a basement on a pull-out couch in a house where I no longer had a room, I read every word. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Blake, this correspondence is regarding the education fund established for both Madison and her sibling. Recent withdrawal patterns have triggered a routine review. Please contact our office to discuss distribution allocations at your earliest convenience. Both Madison and her sibling. Both. I opened my student loan portal. Something I avoided looking at because the number made me sick. 6 figures of debt. All in my name. Payment plans that would follow me into my 30s. I'd assumed that was normal. That everyone graduated with massive loans. That the college fund my parents mentioned once or twice had been split evenly, just not enough to cover everything. But that email said recent withdrawal patterns. Patterns. Plural. Ongoing. I started digging. Search my email for anything with financial aid, or college fund, or tuition. Found another message, this one from freshman year, with an attachment I'd never opened. Original fund agreement, Blake Family Education Trust. My hands were shaking when I clicked it. The document was formal, legal. Established when I was 8 and my sister was 5. $220,000 contributed by my grandparents before they died. Specifically designated for the educational expenses of both Blake children to be distributed equitably. Equitably. I kept reading. There were terms. Conditions. The money was supposed to be used for tuition, books, housing directly related to education. Both children were supposed to benefit equally unless one declined to pursue higher education, in which case the remaining funds would still be preserved for the other's future educational needs. I grabbed my laptop charger. This was going to take a while. Over the next 3 hours, I built a timeline. Freshman year. My tuition was paid entirely through federal loans and a small scholarship. Total borrowed, $42,000. According to the fund statements I found buried in attached PDFs, $60,000 was withdrawn that same year. The math didn't work. I cross-referenced dates. Found payment receipts my parents had forwarded once, barely glanced at. The $60,000 went to Educational Life Coaching Program for my sister. $15,000. Career Development Seminars. $22,000. Therapeutic Intervention Residential Program. $23,000. None of it was college. My sister was 16, still in high school. Sophomore year. Another $50,000 withdrawn. My loans. Another $40,000. The $50,000 went to future planning consultancy. Personal brand development coaching. Wellness retreat intensive. Junior year. $48,000 withdrawn. My loans. $38,000. The $48,000 more coaching. More programs. More investments in my sister's journey of self-discovery. Senior year. The final blow. $55,000 withdrawn. My loans for that year. $35,000. But this time, I found the receipt. A property deposit. $40,000 down payment on a condo in Colorado. The listing was still in my browser history from when my mother had excitedly shown me photos months ago, saying, "Look where your sister might live someday." I'd smiled and said it looked nice. I didn't know I'd helped pay for it. The remaining $15,000, life transition coaching and independent living preparation courses. I added it up 3 times to make sure. Total fund, $220,000. Total withdrawn, $213,000. My tuition coverage from fund, $0. My student loan debt, $155,000. Every single dollar had gone to my sister. Not education. Not college. coaching programs and seminars, and a condo she didn't even live in yet. Future planning for someone who'd never held a job. Career development for someone with no career. Meanwhile, I'd worked 20-hour weeks and lived on ramen and graduated with debt that would take 15 years to pay off. The fund agreement said equitable distribution. They'd given her everything and told me nothing. I sat back against the basement wall, laptop burning hot on my legs. This wasn't just favoritism. This wasn't just missing my graduation. This was financial betrayal.
Documented.
Dated. Provable. The email from 2 years ago said the financial aid office had flagged it. Asked my parents to explain. And somehow, they'd made it go away. Probably with excuses about special needs and medical necessity and how hard everything was. But I had the receipts now. Life coaching isn't medical. Personal branding isn't therapy. A condo deposit definitely isn't educational expense. I opened a new browser tab. Typed, misuse of designated education funds legal options. Spent 2 hours reading, taking notes, learning terms like fiduciary duty and breach of trust and mandatory accounting. Then I found it. A legal clinic that handled financial disputes. Free consultation for cases involving family trusts and education funds. I looked at the clock. Almost midnight. Upstairs, I could hear my sister laughing at something on TV. My parents' voices discussing weekend plans. Normal family sounds. Like nothing was wrong. Like they hadn't just stolen my future to fund her fantasy life. I didn't feel angry yet. Still felt that cold, clear focus. But underneath it, something else was building. Not rage. Not even hurt anymore. Justice. I bookmarked the legal clinic website. Screenshot every document. Backed everything up to 3 different cloud accounts. Then I closed my laptop and lay down on the pull-out couch. For the first time since sitting by that fountain, I smiled. Because they had no idea what I'd just found. And they definitely had no idea what I was about to do with it. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't toss or turn or stress. Just lay there with my eyes open, brain moving through options like chess moves. Confronting them wouldn't work. They'd cry, make excuses, turn it into a conversation about my sister's needs and my lack of understanding. I'd seen that play out 1,000 times. Going silent wouldn't work either. They'd barely notice. I'd been the quiet one my whole life. This needed to be different. Formal. Undeniable. Something they couldn't talk their way out of or dismiss as me being dramatic. By morning, I had a plan. The legal clinic opened at 9. I called at 9:02. The woman who answered sounded tired but kind. Family Trust Legal Services. This is Patricia. I need to talk to someone about education fund misuse. Can you hold for just a moment? Classical music. 90 seconds. Then a man's voice, older, measured. This is Richard Chun. I understand you have questions about an education fund. I spent 20 minutes explaining everything. The fund terms. The withdrawals. The fact that I'd received nothing while my sister received everything. The debt I was carrying for an education that should have been covered. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a pause. Do you have documentation? Every withdrawal receipt, every bank statement I could find, the original fund agreement, and the email showing the financial aid office already flagged this once. Another pause. How old are you? 22. Graduated yesterday, actually. Happy graduation. His tone shifted, became more focused. Here's what you need to understand. This type of fund usually has specific legal protections. If it was established as an educational trust with explicit terms about equitable distribution, and if those terms were violated, you have grounds to file a formal inquiry. What does that mean? It means the trustees, your parents, would be required to appear before a review board and account for every withdrawal. They'd need to prove each expense was educational and equitably distributed. If they can't, there are consequences. My heart was pounding. What kind of consequences? Depends on the findings. Could range from mandatory repayment plans to legal penalties for misappropriation. But the first step is filing the inquiry. That triggers an automatic investigation. And they have to show up? In person, yes. It's a legal proceeding. No proxies, no phone calls. They'd receive official notice and a date to appear. I thought about my parents. How they'd avoided every difficult conversation my entire life. How they'd ghost phone calls and reschedule appointments and find ways to not deal with things. They couldn't ghost a legal proceeding. How do I file? I can email you the forms. You'll need to attach your documentation and submit it to the office that manages the trust. Based on what you've told me, I'd estimate they have a serious problem. He paused. Are you sure you want to do this? This will change your family dynamic permanently. I looked around the basement, at the pull-out couch where I'd slept in my own house. Thought about my room upstairs, converted into someone else's space without asking. Thought about walking across that stage alone. I'm sure. All right. Give me your email. You'll have everything within the hour. After we hung up, I sat with my phone in my hand. This was real now. Not just research or anger or hypothetical justice. Real legal action that would force my parents to answer for decisions they'd made in secret. Part of me wanted to warn them. Give them a chance to explain or apologize or fix it themselves. But I remembered something my father said last night. You could have recorded it. Like watching a video of my own graduation was the same as them being there. That's when I knew they'd never understand unless forced to. The email came 40 minutes later. Forms, instructions, a list of required documents. I spent the entire day filling everything out. Triple-checking dates. Attaching evidence. Writing a statement that was factual, unemotional, and absolutely damning. By evening it was done. One button. That's all it would take. Submit. I hovered over it for maybe 10 seconds. Thought about what would happen next. The letter they'd receive. The panic. The scrambling. My sister's inevitable breakdown. The family chaos. Then I thought about sitting by that fountain. About empty seats in the third row. About a college fund that was supposed to be mine too. I click submit. The confirmation page loaded. Your inquiry has been received and assigned case number 2847 BL. The named trustees will be notified within 7 business days. 7 days. I closed my laptop. Went upstairs where my family was watching a movie, my sister's head on my mother's shoulder, my father half asleep in his chair. Hey, my mother said. Want to join us? No thanks. I'm tired. Long day. Okay, sweetie. Sleep well. I went back to the basement, lay down on the pull-out couch, and waited. 6 days. That's how long I had to watch my family operate like nothing was wrong. Like they hadn't stolen from me. Like missing my graduation was just a minor scheduling conflict. 6 days of my sister discussing her latest idea, a wellness podcast, maybe, or a YouTube channel about finding yourself. 6 days of my mother encouraging every thought like it was genius. 6 days of my father nodding along, checkbook ready for whatever came next. I smiled, said, that sounds great. Kept my face neutral. On the 7th day, the mail came at 2 in the afternoon. I was in the basement when I heard my father's footsteps upstairs, the sound of the front door opening, the mail being collected. Normal sounds, daily routine. Then silence. Complete heavy silence. I moved to the bottom of the basement stairs, listened. What is this? My father's voice, but different. Tight. Confused. What's what? My mother from the kitchen. This letter. It's some kind of legal office. About the college fund. Footsteps. My mother joining him. The sound of paper being unfolded. More silence. This has to be a mistake. My mother's voice was higher now. We already dealt with this. We explained everything to the financial aid office 2 years ago. This isn't from financial aid. This is from a trust review board. They're saying we have to appear for a formal inquiry. That there's been a complaint filed about fund misappropriation. Misappropriation? That's insane. Everything we spent was for the girls. For their future. I almost laughed. For their future. One of their futures, anyway. Who would file a complaint? My father asked. The silence that followed was different. Realization settling in. Madison. My mother said my name like an accusation. She was looking at her laptop a lot this week. Do you think? Why would she do this? We're her parents. If she had questions, she could have just asked us. Could I? Could I have asked them why they drained a fund meant for both of us? Why they paid for my sister's life coaching, but not my tuition? Why I was drowning in debt while she got a condo? Would they have told me the truth? Or would they have found a way to make it my fault for asking? My sister's voice joined them. What's going on? Nothing, sweetie. Just some paperwork confusion. Is this about Madison? She's been acting weird all week. It's nothing for you to worry about. But I could hear the worry in my mother's voice. The kind that comes when you realize something you've hidden is about to become visible. My phone buzzed. A text from my father. We need to talk. Now. I waited 5 minutes. Let them sit with it. Then I came upstairs. All three of them were in the living room. The letter sat on the coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. Did you do this? My father's face was red. Not angry yet, but getting there. Do what? File some kind of legal complaint about the college fund. About how we spent money on our own daughters. On one daughter, I said quietly. You spent it on one daughter. My mother's eyes filled with tears. That's not fair. Your sister had special needs. She required programs and support that. Life coaching isn't special needs. Personal branding seminars aren't therapy. A condo in Colorado definitely isn't a medical expense. The room went silent. My sister looked between us, confused. What condo? Nobody answered her. My father picked up the letter. This says we have to appear in person at a hearing. That we have to provide documentation for every withdrawal and prove it was used appropriately. This is humiliating. You know what was humiliating?
My voice was still calm.
Still quiet. Walking across that stage alone. Sleeping in a basement in my own house. Finding out you spent over $200,000 on my sister while I took out massive loans for an education that fund was supposed to cover. We were going to help you with those loans eventually.
When?
After you finished funding her next revelation? Her next journey? Her next version of herself. My mother was crying now. You've always been so independent. You never needed us the way she does. We thought you understood that. I understood that I didn't matter as much. I just didn't know you'd stolen from me to prove it. Stolen. My father's voice rose. That money was for both of you. We used it for both of you. Show me. I gestured to the letter. That's what the hearing is for, right?
Show them.
Show everyone. Prove that spending $0 on my education while spending everything on her coaching programs and condos was somehow equitable. They didn't have an answer. My sister finally spoke. You're doing this because we missed your graduation. This is revenge. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She genuinely believed that. Believed this was about one day, one event, one disappointment. She had no idea it was about 22 years of being invisible. The hearing is in 3 weeks, I said. You should probably find those receipts. I went back downstairs. Behind me, my sister started crying. Not the manipulative kind she used to get her way. The real kind, the scared kind. My mother's voice. What are we going to do? My father. We'll call our lawyer. This is ridiculous. She's our daughter. She can't do this to us. But I could. I already had. And in 3 weeks, they'd have to sit in a room with officials and explain every choice they'd made. Every dollar they'd spent. Every time they chose her over me. No running. No excusing. No making it disappear. For once, they'd have to face what they'd done. My phone started buzzing. Call after call. Text after text. I turned it off. Let them panic. Let them scramble. Let them feel what it's like when the person you counted on to stay quiet finally speaks up. I'd spent my whole life making things easier for them. This time, I was making things impossible to ignore. 3 weeks feels like forever when you're waiting for something. 3 weeks feels like nothing when you're dreading it. My parents called 47 times in those 3 weeks. Left voicemails that progressed from confused to angry to pleading. My sister sent messages that ranged from, "How could you do this to us?" to, "I'm having panic attacks because of you." I didn't respond to any of them. I moved out instead. Found a small apartment in Baltimore, near where I'd be starting my job in 2 weeks. Packed my things from the basement in the middle of the day while they were all out, probably meeting with lawyers trying to figure out how to make this go away. Left my key on the kitchen counter. No note. No goodbye. Just gone. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning at 10. I arrived at 9:30, sat in my car, and reviewed my documents one more time. Everything was organized, labeled, cross-referenced. I wasn't nervous. That cold clarity from graduation day had never left. At 9:50, I walked into the building. County Administrative Office, 3rd floor. The kind of place that smells like old carpet and has fluorescent lights that buzz. The waiting area had 6 chairs. I took one in the corner. At 9:58, my parents arrived. My father saw me first. His expression was hard to read. Betrayal, maybe. Or just exhaustion. My mother's eyes were puffy, like she'd been crying recently. My sister was with them, even though the notice specifically said only account trustees were required. Of course she was there. She couldn't stand not being the center of attention, even when the attention was bad. They sat on the opposite side of the room. Nobody spoke. At 10 exactly, a woman in a gray suit opened a door. Blake family? We're ready. We filed into a conference room. Long table, for officials on one side, chairs for us on the other. Everything was recorded. Everything was formal. The lead officer introduced himself as Mr. Harmon. He had reading glasses and a folder that was definitely thicker than it should be. This is a preliminary hearing regarding the Blake Family Education Trust, established in 2011 for the benefit of Madison Blake and her sibling. We're here today because a formal inquiry was filed concerning the distribution of funds. Mr. and Mrs. Blake, you're here as trustees of the fund. Do you understand? My father nodded. We understand, but we want to state for the record that this is a family matter that should have been handled privately. This became an official matter when it was filed as such, Mr. Harmon said. Let's begin. The original fund contained $220,000 designated specifically for educational expenses for both children to be distributed equitably. Is that your understanding of the fund's terms? Yes, but I'll need yes or no answers for now. You'll have time to explain. He looked down at the papers. According to bank records, over the past 4 years, $213,000 has been withdrawn from this fund. Is that accurate? Yes. And according to the complaint filed, none of these funds were used for Madison's direct educational expenses. Is that accurate? My father hesitated. Her education was covered by other means. Student loans specifically. $155,000 in federal loans, currently in Madison's name. Meanwhile, the fund, which was established for both children, was depleted. Can you explain the disbursement logic? My mother leaned forward. Our younger daughter had special circumstances that required immediate attention. Programs that would help her future education and career development. We intended to help Madison with her loans once these programs were complete. What program specifically? This is where it fell apart. My father opened a folder. Started reading from receipts. Educational life coaching, career development seminars, therapeutic residential programs. Were these accredited educational institutions? Not traditional ones, but were any of these expenses directly related to enrollment in a college, university, or accredited trade school? Silence. Mr. and Mrs. Blake, the fund terms are very specific. Educational expenses means tuition, required fees, books, and housing directly tied to attending an educational institution. Life coaching, while potentially valuable, doesn't meet that definition. My mother's voice cracked. Our daughter needed support. She struggled with anxiety, with finding direction. These programs were investments in her future education. How old is your younger daughter? 20. Has she enrolled in any educational institution yet? Longer silence.
No.
She's still finding the right path. Mr. Harmon made a note, looked at another paper. I see here there was a $40,000 withdrawal marked as a property deposit. Can you explain how property purchase relates to educational expenses? It was for her future, my father said, when she's ready to live independently while attending school. But she's not enrolled in school. Not yet. So you withdrew $40,000 from an educational fund to purchase property for a child not currently in school, while your other daughter, who was actively enrolled and completing her degree, received $0 from this same fund and instead financed her entire education through personal debt. The way he said it, flat and factual, made it sound even worse than it was. My mother started crying. We were trying to do what was best for both our daughters. Madison has always been so capable, so independent. We knew she'd be fine. Our other daughter needed more support. The fund wasn't established based on who needed more support. It was established for equitable distribution for educational purposes. You were trustees of that fund, which means you had a legal obligation to follow its terms. He looked at my parents. You didn't follow those terms. You used funds designated for one child's education to finance non-educational programs for another child. That's a violation of the trust agreement. My father's face went pale. What does that mean? It means we're moving forward with a full investigation. You'll be required to provide documentation for every single withdrawal. Prove educational relevance. And depending on our findings, you may be required to restore funds improperly dispersed. Restore? We don't have. My mother stopped. We spent it. It's gone. Then you'll need to establish a repayment plan. My sister, who'd been silent until now, finally spoke. This is insane. Those programs help me. You can't just take that away. Mr. Harmon looked at her. We're not taking anything away. We're enforcing the terms of a legal trust that your parents violated. He closed his folder. We'll be in touch with next steps. This hearing is adjourned. We stood. My parents looked shell-shocked. My sister was crying. I walked out first. Didn't look back. In the hallway, my father caught up to me. Are you happy now? Is this what you wanted? I stopped. Turned. I wanted you at my graduation, I said quietly. I wanted a family that didn't treat me like I was optional. I wanted the education fund that was supposed to be mine too. This is just what happens when you ignore someone for so long they stop letting you. You're tearing this family apart.
No, Dad.
I'm just refusing to hold it together anymore. I left, got in my car, drove back to Baltimore. And for the first time in 3 weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The investigation took 4 months. 4 months of officials reviewing receipts, questioning expenses, determining what qualified as educational and what didn't. I didn't follow it closely, didn't check in or ask for updates. Just lived my life.
Started my job.
Made friends. Furnished my apartment one piece at a time. Learned what it felt like to come home without walking on eggshells. My parents tried to reach out twice. Both times through email, both times asking if we could work this out as a family. I didn't respond. My sister sent one message. I hope you're proud of yourself. Mom cries every day because of what you've done. I blocked her number. The final report came in October. The Trust Review Board determined that $187,000 had been improperly withdrawn. My parents were ordered to establish a repayment plan, split between reimbursing the trust and covering a portion of my student loans. The condo deposit in Colorado? Returned. The money for future programs? Frozen. Everything had to be accounted for, documented, proven. My father called when he got the notice. I actually answered that time. I hope this makes you happy, he said. We'll be paying this back for years. Your sister is devastated. Your mother barely leaves the house. I'm sorry they're upset, I said.
And I meant it.
But what you did wasn't right. And someone needed to say it. You could have talked to us. Would you have listened? Or would you have found a way to make it my fault for bringing it up? He didn't answer. You missed my graduation for her tantrum, I said. You gave her everything and expected me to be fine with nothing. You treated me like I was invisible until I forced you to see me. This isn't revenge, Dad. This is consequence. Your sister says she'll never forgive you. Then we'll both be living with people who didn't choose us. I hung up. A week later, I got a check. First payment toward my student loans from the court-ordered plan. It wasn't everything. Wouldn't erase the debt overnight. But it was something. More than that, it was acknowledgement. Proof that what happened to me mattered. That I wasn't crazy for being hurt. That the inequality was real and documented and wrong. I framed my graduation photo. The one of me in my cap and gown, diploma in hand, fountain in the background. Hung it in my living room where I'd see it every day. Not because I needed to remember the pain. Because I needed to remember what I did next. Some people will say I went too far. That families should forgive. That I should have tried harder to work it out. Maybe they're right. But I spent 22 years being the daughter who adjusted, who understood, who made herself smaller, so everyone else could be comfortable. They chose my sister over me 1,000 times. So I chose myself. And honestly, I'd make that choice again.